Welcome to my Trader Challenge, where I will give you a far better understanding of yourself and the psychological issues that are holding you back from being a consistently profitable trader. Firstly, I'm going to tell you how and why I learned to develop my own trading rules, which started from a very painful experience. I started working for an investment bank on the London International Financial Futures Exchange in 1987. After the October 1987 crash, I lost my job. But this turned out to be the best bit of luck in my career, in fact, because I moved to a market-making company in '98. And this was the beginning of the most exciting time of my life. Bear in mind, I was working in the most intense trading environment, surrounded by successful traders. And even in that environment, trading was tough to learn. But eventually, I did become successful. I was being coached 5 days a week, living, eating, and breathing trading. And yet it still took me 3 or 4 years to learn how to trade, to start to become successful. Nobody who starts trading is an overnight success because you have to learn self-control before you can become a consistently profitable trader. When I was 23, I bought my first Ferrari, a car that I dreamed of all through my childhood. In 1992, at the age of 24, I made £1 million in a week and I bought a large house and a second Ferrari. After eventually building a successful floor trading career, I was forced to adjust to the new digital era of trading in the 2000s, where we began to trade in front of a screen. The skill set I had learned from floor trading of quick thinking, alertness, followed by order flow, the aggression, trading on instinct, and other skills in the analog world became completely redundant. This was a huge shock to me. I suffered a lack of self-control, which led to increasing fears and biases that clouded my judgment to sabotage my decision-making. Eventually, and it was a long process, I realized that the key to trading successfully is to actually understand your own strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so let's have a look at how and why I learned to develop my own trading rules. At the age of 30, it looks like my 10-year trading career was over. Importantly, my floor training had never dealt with the psychological aspects of trading. I was a pretty good options market maker. I understood the mechanics of options trading, but I was not aware that psychology was an important issue. I battled my way through the trading floor years, dealing with the stress and anxiety as if it was just a normal part of the job. I would regularly make or lose £50,000 in a day or two. Immediately losing £30,000 when I started trading on screen helped to accelerate my learning process. It took a long time to teach myself the new discipline. I realized eventually that I had to learn self-control, strategic planning, and the patience to wait for low-risk trading setups. It was impossible to follow the order flow in the same way that I did on the floor, so I realized I had to find another method. I had to learn to become an expert technical analyst. It took a number of years, and eventually I did set up my business, Day Trade Ideas, back in 2007, and I managed to land quite a few bank clients. This was a good discipline for me because every morning I had to come up with the best trading ideas and levels because obviously I needed to impress the bank clients. I can save you the pain I suffered, the anxiety, the frustration, and all the money that I lost learning how to trade, learning about trading psychology in my 3-decade journey to be a professional trader. Eventually, I learned that my mindset and my psychological preparedness was the game changer. I'm going to do a deep dive into explore exactly how you can do this for yourself. People say to me, oh, you're just a gambler, and that really isn't the case. I'm going to explain to you why trading is completely different to gambling and how you have to look at trading from that mindset. We may perceive ourselves as living lives of freedom, but really there are numerous rules that we live by that influence our everyday experiences. They're all designed to ensure that we don't harm ourselves or others. What happens to us when there are no rules in life? For example, there are no rules regarding food consumption and exercise, which often results in people engaging in unhealthy eating habits leading to poor nutrition, obesity, and health-related issues. When it comes to gambling, there are strict rules that we have to adhere to. Casino games have a clear beginning and an end. This is absolutely a key point that you don't have in trading. You bet what you can afford to lose on each roll of the dice or the turn of a card. You know what the odds are before you start. You know exactly what you can lose because that's what you stake on the game. You know exactly when the game starts and ends. Casinos, through this process, help us to control our losses or at least lose less over a longer period of time. In trading, there are no such rules. You can lose everything in your account on the first trade. If you're not disciplined, the market will take your money away from you very quickly. I'm sure most of you know this by now because you've all been trading for at least several months. The only reason we struggle with trading is because humans will sabotage themselves without self-discipline. When you open your trading account and you put some money in there and you do your first trade, there are an infinite amount of outcomes that can play out, which is something that doesn't happen in the casino. So you open the position. If you don't have a stop loss, you have no idea how much you could lose or how quickly you could lose it. And as you know, the only way to limit that loss is to use a stop loss and not to move that stop loss further away from your entry point. But we have a problem with that because just as soon as the stop loss is about to be triggered, we want to move it to give ourselves a bit more room and a bit more time. There's also an infinite amount of outcomes that can happen on the profit side. How many times have you seen your position swing into a profit and then swing back, so filled with indecision, you end up trading spontaneously? You really don't know where you want to get out. And even when you do get out, you don't know if you've done a good or a bad job. Should you be happy with the profit that you've got, or do you feel unsatisfied because you think you should have got more profit, but you panicked out because you hadn't planned the trade? You need to plan your trade and then you trade the plan. Each trade needs to have a clear entry and exit strategy. You have to set your own rules because nobody else will. You need a checklist for entering every trade and a clear exit strategy, so you know exactly how much you could lose and exactly how much you expect to win. Only then can you work out what your risk is versus your reward. And this is absolutely key to long-term survival in the financial market. In the course, I'm actually going to provide you with 3 vital checklists, which are designed to ensure that you don't trade spontaneously or erratically, and that all our trades have structure. Let's start with the most important aspect of trading, which is limiting our losses. I'm sure you've heard the saying, cut your losses and run your profits. But why do we fail to cut our losses? It's down to the ingrained biases that we already have programmed in our brain. The most common problem we suffer from is emotional bias. Human emotions, such as fear and greed, heavily influence trading decisions. When emotions take over, we trade impulsively and irrationally. I'm going to show you ways to eliminate emotions from your trading. We are prone to various cognitive biases, such as confirmation bias, when we favor information that confirms our existing beliefs and may reinforce bad habits when they've actually led to a winning trade. So for example, when you move your stop loss further away from your entry point to give yourself a bit more room, a bit more time, in the hope that the market will turn around, reverse quickly, and move in the right direction and get you out of your loss. The problem is if you do this and the market does turn around, it actually reinforces bad habits. And you think to yourself, I'm going to do this every time. I'm going to keep moving my stop loss out because eventually I will be right. And eventually you may not even bother using a stop loss because you'll believe that the markets will always turn around. Eventually you will have a trade where the markets don't turn around and you don't get out of the trade and you'll suffer a massive hole in your account. So I'm going to show you and teach you how to avoid holding onto losses and taking excessive risks. We also suffer from loss aversion. This is a cognitive bias discovered by 2 behavioral economists. We don't like accepting a loss and we'll do anything to avoid the feeling of defeat, which paralyzes our decision making and causes us to run losses. The exact opposite of what a trader should do. Remember the trading rule. The first cut is the cheapest. I discovered quite early on in my career that I would feel the impact of losses far more strongly than the gains of equal magnitude. The gains are almost expected. That's why we're in trading, whereas the losses are not. Do you feel like you've never made enough on a trade to satisfy yourself, but at the same time, losing trades always feel like you've lost too much? Lastly, overconfidence and optimism bias. Many individuals exhibit overconfidence and an optimism bias when it comes to their abilities and future outcomes. This bias can make it difficult to accept losses because people often believe that their trades will eventually turn around, leading them to avoid necessary stop-loss orders. From an evolutionary perspective, this bias may have provided individuals with the motivation and confidence to persevere in challenging situations, but it can also hinder objective decision-making. Now we have a clear understanding of which issues are holding us back from trading, let's learn how to develop the mindset to ensure you control your emotions and respect the rules.